Greetings and salutations. Hello, all my happy people out there, my hundreds and hundreds of live viewers now. Greatly appreciate you showing up on a Tuesday afternoon. I am talking to you from roughly the surface of the sun. Lafayette, Louisiana is about 200 degrees right now. Um, Actually, I say that we had a break in the humidity yesterday, and it was actually pleasant. But pleasant as in, if you go from like feels like 115 to like feels like 95, you're like, oh, that's wonderful. But it's still like 95 degrees outside. It's been incredibly busy here. We have, of our 200 kids or so, we have four that are still in school. And they, I have four kids in school, two in one school, two in the other. They start at different times, but now everybody is in school, and our routine has been on for about a week now, and it feels okay. It's amazing, like how slow time goes in summer, and how quick things go when I'm back on that schedule. In case you're curious, my schedule is 5:30 in the morning because I need to have a cup of coffee before I do anything else. Have a cup of coffee, play on my phone. 6, I exercise. 6:30, start rounding up the kids who need to be woken up. The other two wake themselves up, and we just prep. And they mostly do everything themselves. I just kind of manage any issues, and then by 7:20 I bring them to bus stops and schools back here at 8. And I'm great in the morning. Like, I am very, very good in the morning. It's right about now when I start to like crumble down in terms of my wakefulness. The second this stream is done, I'm going to be hitting my third cup of coffee or so. So, welcome to the 13th episode of Code Break. I think the last couple episodes, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna remember to write down what episode this is, so I don't forget." And I actually did. Very, very proud of myself. 13th episode. Everything is going to go great. We'll see. Um, and with that, let's kind of kick it off a bit. First, I always gotta move things around a little bit. Give me a second here and get that up. Sweet. And we will switch to this. And by the way, I feel like every session I'm like, hey, can you say comments so I know people are here? And I had multiple people send me comments. So thank you. You have no idea what my anxiety is. Oh, before I switch to the screen share, I will say new t-shirt, Star Trek cat. I absolutely love it. All right. Let's actually switch to the right view. There we go. All right. Before we get started, just a real quick thing. Once again, I'm shocked that I actually have a sponsor, and that is Jam. And they are a free screen recording browser extension that auto includes the dev tools in every recording, which is, again, and I know I've said this a few times before, but I've been through the pain of trying to walk a non-technical person through opening up their dev tools and trying to get that information, and having something that does that for you automatically is really freaking cool. These bug reports can be shared as a link, or can be integrated into your issue trackers, including Jira, Linear, Asana, Notion, GitHub, and more. Again, thanks to the folks jam.dev for sponsoring this. And today we are going to talk about mapping. And let me actually scroll up a little bit here, specifically Leaflet. Let me give you this little background context in terms of why I'm going to talk about this. Well, first off, I'm old enough to remember printing out MapQuest routes. So if that includes you as well, leave a comment saying as much. And that, those MapQuest printouts were a huge step up from trying to work with a giant atlas. That would not have worked for me, so I'm glad I didn't have to deal with that for very long. Uh, Bigger text, bigger. It's just a web page. All right, fine, fine, fine. There we go. Um, Very happy when tools like Google Maps came out that you could, include that you could use on your mobile device. That was very, very helpful. And when Google Maps had their JavaScript SDK, I remember playing with it. I thought it worked well. I thought it was pretty cool. I liked it, got into it. Fast forward a couple years later, and I actually got a job at a mapping company, one that you probably have never heard of because I had never heard of it before I joined them. That company was called Here. And yes, Here, Here, which I guess makes sense for a mapping company. Oh, our name is Here, but was always kind of a pain in the butt to explain to people. Like, where do you work? "Oh, I work at Here. Oh, you work here in this conference center? No, no, no. I'm work mapping company here. Um, I will say they are pretty big in the automotive space, and I believe BMW uses their map library. But TLDR, they have a similar set of services to Google in terms of they had a JavaScript mapping library, all kinds of APIs as well related to doing mapping type things. I worked there for about 2 years or so, and it was fun because they had cool products, and I had kind of like a casual understanding of how maps and stuff worked. And certainly I got a much greater understanding in my time there. So, some time ago, my buddy Scott Stroh, same one who just asked me to bump up my font size, he randomly mentioned he was working on a project and he added some maps. And I asked him, like, "Oh, what did you use for your maps?" And he mentioned Leaflet. And I was like, "Cool." So I put a little note in terms of I need to look at that someday. I'm going to share this because it is funny as heck. MapQuest was way better than having 8 maps of Virginia in my car's console when driving in Georgia. I could see that. So yeah, Scott had mentioned Leaflet, and I said, "All right, I'm going to look at it one day." And a month or so ago, I was flying. I was flying to Bend, Oregon, to see the Decemberists play with my wife. We both went up there for a short trip, and on the way back, we had a multi-hour layover. And just so you know, like if you do any type of travel at all, if you're traveling, let's say once a month or so, look into getting lounge access. Just having a peaceful place between flights, just having, even the free coffee and soda and drinks and snacks is nice. It saves me money right there. Um, and as it stands, I like a couple hours between my flights anyway, just because of my anxiety. So I don't fly anywhere direct outside of Atlanta and Texas. I always have a layover. And if I see one that's 2, 3 hours, I am down with that. I like that. But anyway, I had this layover, opened up my laptop, didn't know what to do. And I'm like, all right, Scott had mentioned Leaflet. I am going to take a look at it. And I started to play with it, and I was really like surprised. Like it was really freaking easy. And I started, doing things like adding pop ups and working with data and things like that. And I was just kind of like really just pleasantly surprised. That's always a nice thing when you try new technology and you're not immediately turned off. You're immediately excited about, just how easy it is to work with it. So what I want to do today is I want to do for y'all kind of like what I did at the airport, which is I kind of scrolled around and I built some demos, and I played with it. And I want to do this with y'all, and I will share the code obviously at the end in case you want a copy of it. I do want to do like a formal blog post on this as well at some point, but for today, just want to play. And absolutely, thank you, Rod. Easy is good. Enough things aren't. I think some people get paid by the level of complexity. So before I get started, I do have in my editor, and before Scott says anything, also, I was supposed to do this and forgot. I do have a folder I'll be working with, and my other buddy Todd, like 30 minutes ago, he shared this cool tool called Servio, which lets you expose a local web server, and I'm going to do that. So I have. Let me actually get my local server running here. I'm going to kill it and restart it. All right, so I have it in my proper browser. Not much there now, but that was running on localhost port 8080. And I'm just going to go to Servio and I'm going to copy and paste a command because that has never gone wrong. I'm going to copy that and just change the port. Go over here, 8080. And the last part was servio.net. And in theory, y'all can take this. We'll open this up. I'll put this in the comments so y'all can see it. Right there. Come on, send. So in theory, like if you open that up, you will see what I'm building. Why I did test this obviously before I worked on this. I'm using a command line called live server, which does automatic reload. So make that a little bigger. If I go in my code and say hello world 3, no more testing, and save it, and I typoed, you will see it did not pick up the why didn't you, yeah, change detected. Why didn't you pick up an auto oh, I know why it didn't auto reload. So by the way, most of these auto reload web tools, they require a proper DOM. So HTML, like that. They need a head and a body. And the reason is that they inject a script into the head. I didn't have a head, it didn't work. So in theory, if I reload, it should be working. And if I edit this, save. Yep, it did. It picked up on. Now let's see if the Servio version is working. There's hello world 1. And we will make this 1 billion. And yeah, okay. So it's not work, which I guess kind of makes sense, maybe. I don't know if it makes sense or not. But if you are using that URL that I shared in the comments, you will need to manually reload while I don't have to worry about that. So again, I'm going to do like what I did at the airport. I'm going to go through and I'm going to skim the docs, and I could see right there. That looks pretty easy. By the way, one thing that Leaflet kind of exposed to me, something that I hadn't realized before, is that uh, you need to work with a tile provider. Now, if you don't know what a tile is, when you look at a map, you see this Hyde Park. So I assume that's London, I believe. This map is made up of a bunch of squares, a bunch of pictures. And those squares represent a location and a zoom level. And this covers the entire planet. When you zoom out, the library is saying, okay, I need the tiles for this new position from latitude, longitude, etc., and this particular zoom, and new graphics are loaded. And I have no clue how many are in there. But Leaflet asks you to work with a tile provider, and that's what you're seeing there. They're using another open source project called OpenStreetMap to actually provide that data. Google Maps and here they both kind of hide that from you because they have their own tiles. I believe both of them let you specify other tiles, and that's where things like weather reports can come in and traffic and stuff like that. But Leaflet does make you work with it. But let's look at the quick start guide. I believe that is what I used. Yeah, I really, really liked it. So before writing any code, you need to copy the CSS. All right, we will do that. And by the way, those of you on the stream, if you see me, let's go ahead and minimize this. If you see me alt tab a little bit too fast for y'all to keep up, let me know and I will slow it down. All right, I got the CSS. Include their JavaScript after the CSS. I will put it at the bottom of my page. That feels like a safe place to do it. Save that. Drink some water. Put a div element where you want the map. And that's exactly how Google Maps works, how Here Maps works as well. So let's get rid of that hello world and just drop the map there, or the empty div, I should say. You do need to have a defined height, and that's also something that I know Here Maps does. I believe Google Maps does as well. So we will do this inline. And you know what? Let's actually do 500 px. 180 feels a bit too small. And now we're going to initialize the map. So they are centering it in London. I don't want to do London. I want to do Lafayette. But I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to go ahead and add a script block. And they're not saying to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and use wow, spelled that wrong. Document, add event listener, DOM content loaded, init. And we'll go ahead and do an async function, even though I'm not doing anything async really yet. And drop that like so. Now, if I remember right, this is pointing to the div, and that is the latitude and longitude. And I'm going to copy for Lafayette. And I cannot remember what's first. But I am pretty sure it's lat long. Let's actually look at the docs and see what they say. They're not saying what. Well, you know what? We will do lat long, and if it's wrong, we'll know pretty darn quick. I'm only going to do 3 decimal places, -92.033, like that. All right. This is the zoom level, and no one uses var anymore. I'm cool. I use let. Oh, thank you. Yep. And behind this, and as Todd says, lat long. Lat is not always first. And in fact, I'm going to be talking about GeoJSON in a minute, and it's not first. So, as I mentioned, the next thing is to use the tile layer, right? So this involves, like I say, a URL template that's going to be the position on the map as well as the zoom. The nice thing is that you can just copy and paste this and not worry about it. And in theory, we should have a map. I'll tab this over. In theory, we'll have a map on Lafayette. So I'll save it and go back to my page. And I don't think that's right. Let's see, where are we? We are in Florida. How did we end up in Florida? That's a good question. Making sure. Oh, how many of you saw me do -82 and like not say anything? If you did, I respect you. Oh, bunch of you, bunch of you. Well, okay, listen, to be fair, like I'm looking at my screen now. This is where I'm working, and my comments are like way over here. Uh, I love it. My friends not only let me know I'm wrong, they really let me know that I'm wrong. All right, but now it's perfect. Now we're not in Florida. Don't want to be in Florida. Then let me save this, and yeah, there we go, Lafayette. And I didn't specify a width, so it did 100%. I don't like that. Let's go ahead and make that, heck, width. We'll do it 500, a nice little square. And I'm not going to worry about my tabs. By the way, did anybody open up the Servio URL? I mean, just reload this, make sure it's still working. Yeah, it is. Again, it's not auto reloading, but you can do that. And look at that. That's nice. Got the controls in there. Yeah, that was like 5 minutes, and I didn't need any kind of client ID or anything like that. Um, totally free, immediately worked. So dang simple. So that was like my reaction. Uh, nice to see DMARC created in the source. Oh, Rod, are you talking about the live reload? Let's see what Rod's talking about here. Eh, Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that is nice. I agree. That's a good thing that they're clear on that. By the way, again, so that will not be in production. That's just my live reload local server working. But again, so like reaction. Um, this was my reaction at the airport. Like, wow, 5 minutes in and it's just working. So I kept going on, and the quick start. And they talked about adding markers. And again, this is very similar to what Google Maps and to what here Maps does as well. You could see there adding a marker. So let's add this, and we will tweak it for our local click. We will tweak it for Lafayette. And again, the cool kids use let. And what did I say? 30. You know what? I'm going to shift it just a little bit, just so it's not directly the center. We'll do negative 91. So that should be a little bit off. Go back in, and did I go way off? Let me reload just to be sure. And I did save. Yep. You know what? Let's screw being different. And let's get as close as possible. 216. And reload. There we go. Maybe my math was off or something, but there you go. Easy marker. All right, let's keep going. Adding a circle, except you use different argument. I'm not gonna add a circle or a polygon. Like, I believe it works. Certainly, if you wanted to demarc or mark up your like area of work, like where if you're a business, like where your service region is in terms of stuff like that, then you'd want to do a polygon. But I don't believe I need that. I'm not going to worry about it. I can say circle would be good if I wanted to simulate war games and have like a little nuclear war thing going on, but that's not today. So pop-ups, very important. Typically, when you add a marker, you want the user to be able to click and like get some information. So let's go down here and see how that is. All you got to do is take your marker and do bind pop-up, and like very like so. So let's do that. I didn't add the circle or polygon. That's all right. And we'll just say meow and reload. And there we go. It automatically loaded. I'm pretty sure like next in the quick start, we're going to see how to bind that to a click event, because I don't want that showing automatically. And you could use pop-ups as layers when you need something more than attaching. Okay, so if you want just a pop-up without a marker, that's cool. I'm not going to do that. Every time something happens in leaflet, user clicks the corresponding object sends a location. Yeah, let's do that. Let's actually, and we'll not alert because that's crazy. But what we'll do is I want to see what this looks like. So we'll bring this down. Let's bring this out over here. And you know what? We will keep the alert for right now just to keep it simple. So now if we reload and click, bam. And let's go someplace else. Yep, and let's go way somewhere else. Let's go way up north where the temperature is so much better. This is where I want to move. Now, actually, this is where I want to move. Let's go over here. I want to move up here to Bellingham, where currently, right now, it is. Hold on, I'm phone locked. Come on. So right now in Lafayette, it's 88, which honestly is better than it has been the last couple of days. But in Bellingham, it is 64 degrees, which is much better. And there's the lat long for that. So nice. Anyone else go mad watching me use the mouse and switch between programs? So I avoid Alt Tab when I present because I feel like it's a little jarring on screen. Um, yeah, I think that's more of just the way I do when I'm like streaming and recording a video. Uh, but yeah, let's go back to the quick start. And what we're going to do is let's improve our example by using a pop-up instead of alert. So this is good. I like this. This is an example of doing that pop-up without basing it on a marker. So we will go right in here, get rid of this, and I still do need to make the pop-up. And I really don't like it being outside right there. Let's try that. So make the pop-up object. We're going to position it based on where you clicked inside the content, and then open up, save it, reload, and click, and click. You're not working, so we go into console. T has layer is not a function. What do you mean T has layer is not a function? That's crazy. That's literally what they showed in their quick start. Let's go back to the quick start. I say literally, but let's see. Map on click. Oh, I know why. Because right here, that map variable, I created it in the context of my init. So I'm just gonna bring that puppy out, make that kind of global from my script, save it, and that's gonna work perfectly. And make this a little smaller or just get rid of it. Boom, there we go. I like that. And like any good library, it recognizes a drag event and it's not doing a click when I drag my mouse. There we go. Easy. So far, so good. I like this. And that is the basics. So I want to do before we start playing around with this. One thing bugs me. I want to get rid of this. I'm going to keep it in here because it's not a bad example. I want to not open the pop-up on click. I mean on open pop-up. I want it to show when I click. So I wonder if I can create the marker. I could bind a pop-up like that. Just still do that, but don't open it. And then say marker on click. Can I just do open pop-up like that? Let's see what happens. So what I want is I want the marker to show and do nothing until I click, and sweet. I was literally just about to open up DevTools because I'm sure I did that wrong. So cool. So let's actually make like a real application from this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend I have a service that returns stores for my company, and it's going to return just like an array of them. And what I want Leaflet to do is to kind of get that data and then render the markers and then let you pop up and see information about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my data first, and I'm going to make it stores.json. It'll be an array, and everything will have a lat and a long, and we'll give it like a name for like a store name, and we'll call this, because I'm very creative, Lafayette location. And we said 30.216, 30.216, and the longitude negative 92.033. All right, so in theory, that is one store. And I am just going to guess at a couple of these. I don't know Baton Rouge. Let me actually look at my note file. You know what? I do have one for Paris, but that's going to be way too far away. I don't want to do that. I will just modify this a little bit. And we'll call this the other location. And we'll make this 29. And but negative 92, negative 93. That may be in the ocean. I don't know. We'll call it the liquid location. But you can imagine this being tied to like a database or something, some kind of serverless function. But you don't always need a serverless function. And you know what? This is a great example. Like if physical stores are probably not changing very much unless you're the Halloween store, which is like a virus that grows across a spirit Halloween. Uh, your stores are not changing every day. So if you're a company that has a couple locations and you add a location like once a decade, skip the serverless function. Just make a dang flat file like this. All right, so I'm going to duplicate, copy, paste. We'll call this stores.html. And what this is going to do now is I want to load that data file and get my locations. So we'll add a little h2 stores. Great. And so before I do my map, and let's actually comment out everything. I don't need any of this other stuff for right now. I'll clean this up a little bit more. I'll clean this up like that. All right. So before I get my map, I want to get my data. So I'm going to say let request equals await fetch and fetch is so fetch stores.json and say let stores equals await rec.json. And just for the heck of it, make sure this is working. We'll log it and we'll end the function. I called this stores.html. I'm going to go ahead and open up DevTools, and that's fine. I'm not worried about that. Stores.html. And then bam, there we have our stores. Cool, easy peasy. So let's go ahead and let the map load. And it's defaulting to Lafayette. So by the way, I don't know if Leaflet supports this. I know Google Maps does, and I know Here does as well. They support the idea of I'm loading in a random set of locations. I want you to make a map such that all those locations fit. And it's smart enough to say, all right, this is the most west is the most southeast. I need so-and-so zoom to fit all these in, and it just handles it, which is nice. And in fact, I'm going to make a note for myself. Heck, notes, not text. See if Leaflet can load in data and set zoom to fit them all in. If we have time, we'll look it up. We will look it up in the docs. All right, but I know for a fact, I know my company has stores in Louisiana, so I'm going to keep centered on Lafayette. So this section does not change. I do think I want a little bit more space, so we'll do 750 wide, 750 high, 75 like that. And what I want to do then is have my markers be dynamic. So it's going to be very difficult. I'm going to do stores for each like this. and then say let marker equals L dot marker. And my stores have a lat and a long add to map. And in theory now, if I reload, I'll get the markers. And I'm a little hesitant, but it didn't throw an error. Let's go back up. I got one marker. Oops. Nice. And one's in the ocean. And I'm fine with that. I don't really care. I will say we should change the zoom so the default shows. And I believe lower numbers are farther out. So I changed it to 5. And yeah, that's a little bit too much. Let's make it 8. That is about perfect. So next thing I want to do is make it so that you can click on a marker and get data about the particular store. Now, in this case, my data is just one thing. I gave it a name. Well, let's actually try this. I am going to bind a pop-up, marker.bind pop-up, and I could pass a string. In this case, it'll just be s.name. And actually, you know what? Let's make this a little bit dynamic. H2 store. And we'll do a p tag, and we'll do name s.name, close p, like that. And just for the heck of it, we'll open up. We will open them automatically, just so we could see them. And reload. And reload. Reload. Bind pop. What did I say? Oh, bind pop up. Not the ocean, the Gulf. Scott, don't be that person. Yes, you're right. Not the ocean. All right. So my zooming could be a little bit better. There we go. Oh, and that that brings up a cool thing. So let me reload. Notice how it's only showing one, even though I told them all to open. Its pop-ups only does one at a time, which is a good feature, which is what I want. Laugh at location other, and I correctly guessed about that being underwater. So last change I want to make is to not open this, but instead to say marker on click, open pop-up. And this was just too dang easy. Pop up marker. I don't believe you, error. Go away. Open pop-up is not defined. Oh, I'd be willing to bet. Why is that failing? Is it because I'm using an arrow function and it doesn't have access to marker on click? For the heck of it. Love arrow function. Oh, but I'm just going to make this a little bit easier just for a second. I go 0, I less than stores. Write in JavaScript like 1995. And just for the heck of it, let s equal stores I, just to see if that quickly fixes it. I knew that shorthand was going to bite me. And come back, clear this, reload. So it wasn't a weird thing with my binding. So why the heck are you not working just because I'm in a loop? When the exact same thing worked before. No, that is not the issue. No. Open pop-up. Not doing a dumb thing like misspelling it. This has got to be something simple. Adding to the map, we're binding the pop-up. And just to be clear, it's not the bind issue yet because we saw that working. I know this is some like stupid dumb scope issue that open pop-up is defined on the marker object. I wonder if I did wonder if I did this dot open pop-up. That's not going to work. Oh my god, you worked. Eh, that's weird. It worked, but it gave me an error. Look, let's clear this. Reload. Click. This dot open pop-up is not a function. Not a function, but you're actually working. Again, I feel like this is such like a lame thing I'm doing wrong here. Oh, this scope. If I feel lame not using an arrow function, but we'll make it better. Y'all are seeing in live time why I always fail technical interviews because the dumb stuff like this. Reload, shouldn't have to, and bam, yeah, that fixes it. So fixes it. So this scope issue. So let me actually try going back to my for each and replicate this. Or actually, yeah, Ray, don't make it overly complex. So now we're back to a for each, saving, reloading, no errors on click, works well. And it makes sense to me what it's doing now, for the most part. Yeah, so Scott, I mentioned earlier, Servio is not supporting the live reload, and Eric mentioned, I believe, he saw a WebSocket issue. If I had to guess, the way live reload works, it injects the code to do a WebSocket connection between the web page and my local server. So on Servio, it's probably trying to do a WebSocket from your machine, Scott, to your local system to handle that reload. So not surprised Servio is not handling it. So also, Scott, did you notice? Let me share his comment. Did you notice that we changed to stores.html? Let me actually go on Servio. Stores.html. There we go. If you do that, does that work for you? Click, click, click. So darn nice. I'm gonna give Scott a chance. Ah, he had to step away. You see, folks, this is why you don't leave a Raymond Camden stream because it's so terribly exciting. You miss important details like that. So I want to do one more quick thing and talk about GeoJSON. So one of the things I discovered while working at here is that there was a spec called GeoJSON, and actually I should have looked that up beforehand. GeoJSON spec. Google recommends using Chrome. No, thank you. You could send me that alert every day. I'm not going to switch. So GeoJSON is a flavor of JSON that supports location type data. It's very flexible in terms of being able to support any kind of thing that you could put on a map, right? So If your map data is points, like what I had for my stores, it supports that. If it's multiple points at one time, if it's shapes, if it's multiple shapes, if you could imagine any way that you could draw on a globe, GeoJSON supports that. It also supports ad hoc dynamic properties. So for stores, I had just a name, but I could have had open and close hours, whatever. The spec basically says, you follow this particular specification to say where your map data is, and then the properties can be whatever in the heck you want, uh, whatever makes sense. So GeoJSON, it is a spec. You can find lots of stuff out there in GeoJSON format. Let me try to, where did I put it? There you go. GeoJSON.xyz. You can actually find a crap ton of GeoJSON representations of different types of data. So what I'm curious about is how well, I say I'm curious, I already tested this, so I know, but like how difficult is it to use GeoJSON in Leaflet? So I have a GeoJSON file for the National Parks of America, and there's something like 800 or so of them. The data is pretty bare. It's just the name of the park and its code. I will say the national park system has a cool API that returns data about parks, including open and closed hours and days, any cost of entry and stuff like that. I don't think we'll have time today, but we maybe just do a two-parter where we add that integration next week. But this particular flat file is all of the national parks of America. So, how do we use that in Leaflet? And if I remember correctly, they had under tutorials, they using GeoJSON with Leaflet. It's a very popular data format. I agree. And this is data hard coded into their code. And look at that. That's all you freaking have to do. So let's copy index.html because it was the simpler one. So we'll copy, we'll paste. I'm going to rename this to GeoJSON1, GeoJSON1.html. Again, I'm going to get rid of all the stuff like that. And then let's see. All I got to do is get my GeoJSON. All right. So let geo equals await fetch, and that was national parks.geojson. Let's actually call it geo request. Let geo equals await georec.json. So now we have the data. I should change this lat long to be centered in America. Let's actually do that. Lat long for center of US. Thank you, Bing. Oh, can you give me in decimal? Come on, just give it to me in decimal. And then I'm going to copy this value down to my notes. Yep. Does nobody want to give it to me in decimal? I know it's just math. I just don't want to do it. There we go. All right. United States. So let's just do -95 right there. And lost space. And oh my God, no, go away. Oh, I need to go on mute so I can curse that stupid ad. All right, 37. All right, that feels about right. So that should center it on America and then go back to Leaflet, and their super complex API was this. I need to rename that variable to geo. And so in theory, in 5 minutes, of course, I already have my GeoJSON data. I should see. Let me actually go to the file. That was geojson1.html. And my zoom is maybe a little bit too close still. Look at that. Oh my God. Boom. It's a lot of parks in America. So obviously we could make this better. Might want to might want to change the zoom. Yep. Let's I think 5 was good for America. Come back, come back. There we go. And nope, let's go to 2. That's too much. Let's go to 3. Yeah, I'm gonna call that a winner, and you can see there's Alaska as well. So that's most of it. So you know what I'm gonna do next time? So next time, what we're gonna do is we are actually going to use the National Parks API, and we're gonna build a park interface where half the screen will be this map. And, let me take notes, y'all, because I'm going to forget. All right. For next time. So, first, we're going to make it so that when you click on a marker, you get park information. So, click on marker for park info using NPS API. It's a great API. In fact, so when I was at here, I used their API like all the time because parks was nice. We're going to change the marker. We're going to see how hard that is with Leaflet. Nice little like park icon, a little tree or a park bench or something. But we'll figure out how that works. And then you know what? We'll do a couple things. Instead of a marker, instead of a pop-up, instead of marker pop-up, load HTML to the right. So you can imagine my left side being like the little browser, the right side being park data. And by the way, the API actually returns photos and stuff too. So we can make this look really, really nice. So that'll be our plans for next time. And that will let us touch on integrating a third-party API, as well as doing some HTML markup based on click events in the map. And you know what? As like a stretch goal, I know I got this working. Look for a weather tile API and add it as well. Maybe via toggle. So like you could toggle something to see weather. Like if I'm looking in Louisiana at the map at the parks, I could toggle on weather and see if it's raining at one park and not the other. So cool. So yeah, Scott is saying this. Yeah, dynamic. Yeah, so that is at here. I believe they call it just like fitting, like fit all the markers. We will do that as well, but I'm going to put that at the end. And actually, it'd be great to test that with the initial set of data, like have it zoom out automatically. Anyway. Oh, and Eric's saying, in no way API. No, unless they have a mapping API. So that that brings up a couple of things. So when I was talking about weather, I was specifically talking about a weather tile that I could just drop into Leaflet such that the weather gets added as one more layer. So the bottom layer is like the map data with the lines for states and countries and all that. The layer above it would be the actual weather information. You could use a weather API, and when I click on uh, a park, I could ask for a weather forecast for that particular park. You can do both of that actually. Show like a national forecast type thing on your map, as well as a, let's say, 3-day forecast for. You know what? I'm saying all this, Eric. All right, another stretch goal. Use a weather API specific for park next 3 days. Good. I don't think I ever did this before when I did the multi-part thing. Actually, take notes so that I remembered what I was going to do. All right. All right. Bye. Oh, and there you go. Scott has found it. So you know what, Scott? I am going to type that in like that. That way I don't have to look it up. Cool. So that's been an hour. That's been fun. I miss working with maps. I have to tell you, a month ago when I found this, I was like, "Oh, this would be so good for code break." But I want to blog immediately. Now I feel like I could blog. Like I'm not sure how much my audience is my blog versus watch the stream, whatever. But now I am probably going to go crazy on the blog, showing examples of this. Really, really like this library. That being said, y'all were really, really, let me switch back over here. Y'all were very vocal today in comments. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you all for the questions, comments. Thank you all for commenting on how I messed up my longitude value. Um, Appreciate y'all. Absolutely. Have a great rest of your week and hope to see you here again in 2 weeks where we will keep playing with Leaflet. Goodbye, y'all.